Hi, my name is Tim and I'm a developer with the CfaN RedApp, and today we're going to be talking about pin clustering. Let's get right into it. So the feature that we're going to show today has to do with cluster management. It's a new feature in the RedMap. And if you've ever opened the map for a country with thousands of schools loaded, you know it can get pretty overwhelming. Pins stacked on top of each other. Hard to tell where schools are actually concentrated. Clustering fixes that, and it also turns out to be a really useful tool for planning where to run a campaign. So let's go over to the map. And I had Uganda previously selected. I'm going to be concentrating on Kenya, but one thing I wanted to show is the difference between a cluster pin and an actual pie chart. So what the pie chart is doing is there is a pie chart for each country. And when we look at the country pie charts, what it's telling us is that the red area is the number of schools that have been visited, and the green is the number of schools that have not been visited. So one way we can switch over to Kenya would be to click on this pie chart, and Kenya opens up. And so what we see now is that there's a number of clusters that are spread out across the country. Here on the map, instead of hundreds of individual pins, we're seeing clusters. Each bubble represents a group of nearby schools, and the number tells you how many schools are in that group. Right away, you can see this region here has a much denser cluster than this one over here. That's a strong candidate for where we want to focus. If I tap into a cluster, the map zooms in and spreads the group apart so I can see the smaller cluster surrounding that area, and eventually the individual schools inside it. This lets us go from which part of the country should we look at all the way down to which specific schools without ever losing context. Clustering is a setting the team controls. In settings, under the map settings, there's a cluster nearby pins. Let's go into settings. And here we see the cluster nearby pins. Additionally, this is the control where we set the maximum number of pins we want to see in an area. So right above the cluster nearby pins is the slider, which caps how many pins are loaded on the map at once. That's a separate performance setting, but the two work well together. A high pin cap plus clustering will give you the full national picture without the map slowing down. For instance, we go back into the map. Let's say we zoom out. See here we have 5,000 pins for a particular area as the maximum. And so these clusters allow us to look through the area to see where the concentrations are. Okay, so say the data points us toward this region as our candidate campaign area. Before we commit, the team needs to do a sanity check and check it against real constraints. For example, one 2-person team plus a driver can realistically visit about 8 schools in a day. Over a 2-week campaign, that's roughly 80 schools. So we zoom in into the candidate cluster and start asking how many schools are actually in here. Let's click this 50 plus. And so the 50 plus, we start to see more. And then there's another 50 plus inside that. And so in this area, perhaps we want to be right in this area. And so we click that 10 plus. And now we start to see that in this area, and we'll click this 10 plus also. We start to see that there are some schools that have been visited. One school here, which is a visit later. Okay, so this area here looks like where we want to visit. And now that the area is locked in, clustering has done its job. It's got us from the whole country down to this specific area. For the day-to-day work of actually visiting schools, the team doesn't want grouped bubbles anymore. They want to see every individual school pin. So we go back to settings and turn that off. Return back to the map. There's the school that we said we were going to visit later. So you'll notice that in this area here, there has been a lot of activity. There's a few visit laters. There's a number of schools that have already been visited and so on. After we turn Cluster Manager off, we can now navigate the individual schools. With clustering off, every school in the campaign area shows up as its own pin. Now the team can plan actual daily routes, picking, say, 8 schools that are close together for day 1, the next 8 for day 2, and so on, without any pins being hidden inside a cluster bubble. So to recap, clustering on helps you zoom out and spot where schools are concentrated so you can choose and confirm a campaign area against real constraints like team capacity. Clustering off is what you switch to once the area is confirmed so the team can see and plan around every individual school. Both are just one tap away in settings. Thanks for watching. That's cluster management in RedApp.